Welcome to Sometimes Love Isn't Enough, the Parenting Through Challenges podcast. I am your host, Angie Grant, and I want to talk about a concept that I don't know, it just keeps running through my head in so many different ways as I share different concepts with you here. And so today, for this episode, I just want to throw it out there that I know that the concepts that I share here in ways to parent are sometimes bold. They go against the grain of maybe the way that you've been parented. Most likely, they go against the grain of the way that your extended family, maybe your school system, parents or disciplines your kids. And yet, there's this part of your gut that knows that what I'm sharing here is true. That when we can really see our kids energetically, when we regulate ourselves, when we stop yelling at our kids and instead start connecting with them, everything changes in our family. And we have the power to break generational cycles for our kids. But something holds you back from really doing it. And part of it is patterns, right? We as humans have brains designed to repeat patterns, but part of it is fear. And it's not the fear of parenting differently, it's the fear of being judged for parenting differently. Because although you may hear these little moments from your gut that say, he needs my connection right now, he doesn't need me to control him, or my little guy has different energetic needs than your little guy, so I am not going to parent him the way that you do. Or to be able to create boundaries with your own family, to set clear expectations about what matters to you, doing those things can be scary for fear of being judged, of being ridiculed, of being ostracized from your family or your friends groups or the coffee clutch that you hang out with other moms. If you were to choose connection over control. It can look like initially, as we're learning it too, right? We're kind of like the baby deer in this situation too. But when we as parents choose connection over control, we're going to stumble and the kids are going to scream. And it's going to look like we've given up total control. And in some ways, we are. Because what the things that we talk about here are about that hierarchical parenting, the I'm the boss, I'm in charge, you listen to me, those days are gone for our kids. It's not because, I mean, there's so many things influencing this. It's easy to blame it on gentle parenting or blame it on, you know, TV programs or social media, but really at a much bigger scale, what's really happening is a huge energetic shift that we all feel, we all see evidence of it, but most of the time we can't explain it. I had an episode about this, I don't know, a little while back about this energy shift that we're all going through. But what that really means in your home in a very practical way is that our kids need different from us. Our kids need very different from us than you needed from your parents. And which is different than what your parents needed from their parents as well. And even then, still, when you look back on your childhood and reflect on this idea of as kids having autonomy, feeling empowered over what was happening in our life, there were parts of us that needed that too when we were younger, and our parents just didn't know. But we have the knowledge and the power to change this for our kids and for future generations. But it requires us to be bold and to have strategies to get over the fear of what people will think, of how people will react. I know recently I was having a discussion with a client about school. And when our kids go to school, there's this expectation that if things don't get done at school, that we as parents help our kids complete their homework. And if there are behavioral related things that happen at school, that there's this expectation that the parents know and the parents, help support the behavior management plan. And I'm not at all advocating that we are not on the same page with school or that we work against them, not at all. But there is no other area in our life where one thing is expected to carry over to the other. And so this parent was saying, what do I do when school is saying my son isn't getting his work done at school? What do I do about that? And she said, how do I tell them that working on it at home is creating more problems than good? It's not really getting the work done, and it has been creating such a rift in her relationship with her son. And so then I shared the examples with her that if you were to go to work and not get all your work done for the day, in most situations, your boss wouldn't then call your spouse and say, hey, so and so needs to get the rest of their work done. So you need to be on them and make sure they get it done. Or vice versa with our kids, right? If our kids don't finish cleaning up their room or doing their chores, we don't then call the school and say, hey, I need you to come back to my house and make sure that they get these things done, right? There's this division in our lives, and we get to let home stay at home and school stay at school and work stay at work for the most part. Yet, as parents, we feel this pressure that if our kids aren't getting their work done or they're demonstrating behaviors at school, that we're then supposed to follow through with it at home and make sure it gets done at home. But it has this negative consequence for our kids and oftentimes our relationships. And so I shared with her that, having a conversation with her son and with the school about a boundary that she wanted to create around that. That idea of creating that boundary can be so hard for many parents because we've been so conditioned to think, well, it's just our job to pick up the slack if the kids can't get things done at school. But who decided that? It's just this rule that we've been holding on to for, decades now. And it isn't helping our kids necessarily. And again, I'm not saying that this is a cookie cutter rule for everybody because, again, we're all so unique. But that idea of challenging the rules, challenging the expectations, really being thoughtful about what we're putting forth energy for and where we need to create a boundary. Because when I think about what our kids really genuinely need from us, our kids need us to help them build their core human needs. Because something has happened in the fabric of our relationships over the past several decades or longer, maybe centuries, I don't know. But it continues to tear at that fabric of our kids' sense of well-being. And the same was true for many of us when we were younger. That as humans, we need to feel empowered over our own life. We need to feel loved and valued for who we are, not because of what we do. And when and another human need is being feeling safe, right? And of course, there are basic human needs like food and shelter and things like that. But I'm talking about those emotional needs that we have, feeling safe, feeling loved, feeling valued, feeling empowered. And so and feeling like we belong. And so as parents, when we notice that one of those core needs is maybe not being met the way that we know it needs to be for our kids. And there are some elements in each of our human designs that show where some of us have a deeper need for some of these basic human needs. So, as parents, when we see that there is a tear in that fabric of our relationship with our kids, or a tear in the fabric of our kids' basic emotional needs, then it's up to us to not continue to be compliant to what has been happening and continue parenting the way that that we were parented or that we've been conditioned to parent just because we're afraid of creating waves. Because that fear of what others will think will stop you from doing what you know in your gut is right for your family. And at the end of the day, although many of us like to say, like, I don't care what other people think, our mind, our words say that, and our nervous system continues in a loop of taking action out of fear for what others will think. We continue to do things that that demonstrate that our mind is telling this beautiful story about not really caring about others. And yet we will continue to make choices to follow old patterns. And perhaps part of that is being stuck in a fear loop, which is a normal human experience. And part of that is not taking a pause and being curious about what else is possible. What else is possible for your family, for your relationships? How else can you support your kids? And when I say how else, I'm not saying like, how else can you martyr yourself and do more and more and more? That's not what I'm saying. In fact, what I am saying is that there's so much that we do as parents, as caregivers, to overextend our own energy, trying to keep the peace in so many different areas of life instead of really um, releasing those expectations on yourself and on others, and really just focusing your energy on your immediate family and what they need from you, what they want from you, what energetically they're asking you for. So I get it, right? I get that fear of being judged. I get that fear of what if I trust my gut? Will I just lose complete, utter control over my family? I get it. And I know that society does not know what's best for your children better than you do. Your gut knows what your family needs. We've just been taught to not listen to it. We've been taught that there's some expert outside of us that knows better for you. So, as you're listening to this and thinking about what parenting for leadership looks like in your family, my challenge for you is to take a pause, maybe grab a journal, maybe meditate or go on a walk or take a nice bath, whatever works for you, and brainstorm what are all of those parenting expectations that you've been holding on to, implementing, that have been creating frustration for you. They've been creating challenges in your most important relationships. What are those expectations that your mind, and as you write them down, you believe that they're true, they are the truth. But I want you to write them down because then the next step that I want you to do after you have this list of all of these parenting expectations about things that cause frustration in your family, cause frustration in your relationships, maybe cause fights between you and your kids or you and your partner. I want you to go back through that list after you've got a good hefty list. I want you to go back through it and ask yourself with an open mind, is this true? So back to my example before about expecting our kids to finish up their schoolwork at home. If that's something that causes a daily fight in your home, write it down, right? I have to make sure my kiddo gets their schoolwork done. Write it down amongst all of the other things. My kiddo needs to have a clean room, or my kiddo needs to be an active family participant in chores, or whatever those things are that are causing those daily fights in your home. And then go back through the list and really challenge yourself to find evidence that those things are not true. And if you are stuck with that, reach out to me. I'd love to help you with your list, or reach out to a friend. Or the other thing that I'll oftentimes tell clients too is if you're stuck on something and you can't, your mind can't flexibly think about it, you can't see it from a different perspective, then ask yourself, pick another parent that you know, and ask yourself, what would Susie think about this rule, this expectation that I have written down? Would they say that it's true or something that I've decided is supposed to be happening in my home? Because once we start having this awareness, we're able to start chipping away at these expectations that are causing us unnecessary frustration. They're damaging our most important relationships. And if they're not true, then we we get to make a decision. We get to make a decision to perhaps create more leadership in our home with our kids. And I don't mean leadership in the old way, like somebody's in charge. I mean empowering our kids to make more decisions about the family as a whole instead of just about themselves. Because it is through this discomfort, as we're challenging the way we think about things, we're making decisions to really trust our gut in parenting instead of trusting some outside authority or some parenting expert. When we are able to really tap in to what feels right for us in our gut, things will shift in your family. Things will shift in how you connect with your kids. Things will shift in how you are able to empower your kids because it always starts with us. When we do things like making decisions that are aligned with us, not making decisions that are what make other people happy, which is what our mind does, right? We're faced with a decision and for most of us, not all of us, but many of us, the people pleasers of us, our mind quickly jumps to, well, if I do this, then this person will be happy. And if I do that, then this person will be happy. And if I do this, then I will maintain the peace in all of my relationships, right? This is what our mind does. But our gut says, yeah, but what about you? What about your family? What about your role in being stewards for your kids' energy to really help support them into thriving into who they're here to be? Well, being a steward for our kids and their energy is really hard if we have not first gotten into alignment with our own. So, learning how to trust our gut, listen to our intuition, make decisions that are aligned for us, that is where we start to really show our kids how to get out of this headspace that is full of peer pressure and anxiety and outside influence. And it doesn't match with what is expected from us in society right now. And it's creating chaos for our kids, quite frankly. So, like I said, it starts with you, with learning to trust that inner intuition, make decisions that are right for your family. And this is how we break those generational patterns. This is how we show our kids how to do it. So, if anything in this episode resonated with you, I would love to connect with you to really help you to embody these principles in your family, because this is what our kids need us to do. Our kids need us to stop telling them to calm down, to stop telling them how they need to be, and really start showing them how to take back control over ourselves, over our own bodies, and to really listen to our intuition. This is the work that I love doing with families, and I cannot wait to connect with you. Until next time.